Welcome to today's webinar, Living and Coping with Ataxia. Please note that all attendees are in listen-only mode and that this webinar is being recorded. I'm Lori Sjogren, Community Program and Services Director for the National Ataxia Foundation, and I'll be assisting with today's webinar along with our Communications Manager, Stephanie Lucas. Questions for the webinar speakers can be typed in the Questions tab found in your control panel. And we'll do our very best to answer as many of your questions regarding this topic as time allows prior to the end time of today's session. So as a note for today's session, today's discussion is meant to provide you all with a few perspectives from community members on living and coping with ataxia. And if you have any medical questions, we encourage you to connect with your medical provider regarding those questions. Facilitating today's discussion is Dr. Theresa Chase. Dr. Chase is Assistant Professor of Nursing Mental Health at Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado. And our spirited panel includes Charlotte DePew, Destinee Juarez, and Deserae Anderson. Now I'll invite Dr. Theresa Chase to further introduce our panel and start us off with today's discussion. Welcome, Dr. Chase.
Thank you very much, Lori, and thanks to all of you. It looks like we have about 265 attendees out in the world, and I so appreciate all of you coming on to our webinar today and our panel discussion. As many of you know, this was supposed to be in Denver in early March, and because of COVID-19, we've all had to make a few changes in our life, and one of them has been to go online. So I appreciate all of you clicking in, and I want to reiterate Lori's mention that this is really the panel. The purpose of this panel is to share from the personal experience of those living with ataxia and not to be taken as medical advice. So I do know I do have a few questions in front of me already, and we'll be collecting those as we go, but to really keep this in mind, that to really, for your care and for your health, that you follow the directives of your healthcare providers. So our first panel member today, I'd like to introduce, and I'll introduce all three, and then what we'll do is each of them will take turns on addressing a particular theme. And these themes were developed in conversation with Lori and with our panel members, as well as past experience of doing these panels at the NAF conferences. So our first panelist today I'd like to introduce is Charlotte DePew. Charlotte was diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia in late adult onset in 1998. She is a retired U.S. Army Nurse Corps, retired in 2005. She runs the Greater Denver Ataxia Support Group leader and has been doing that since 2009. And they have adjusted their meetings to virtual Zoom meetings, and from what I understand, doing quite well. Today, Charlotte comes to us from Aurora, Colorado. Our next two panelists will be Deserae Anderson, and Deserae is a mother to a daughter who's Destinee with SCA2. She's an avid long-distance runner and a strong believer in Jesus. Her motto is, "It's only crazy until it happens, and crazy faith is what is her foundation." Deserae and Destinee are coming to you from Greeley, Colorado today. So I know not all of you are from Colorado, but I want to say that we're really kind of a cool state. So we've got a good Colorado showing today. And our third panelist, third, certainly not last or not least, is our 18-year-old Destinee Juarez. She has spinocerebellar ataxia type 2 and was clinically diagnosed in 2017 at the age of 17 by Dr. Abigail Collins. She's currently participating in the Biohaven clinical study, and from what I understand, that is continuing on. So my role today will really to be about keeping the conversation going. Our panelists are very well prepared. We've put a lot of time into this to bring forward their personal experience to help those of you out in the world. And what I'll be doing is really just kind of being like the concierge on a cruise ship. You know, keeping the party going, keeping everyone in line, and making sure that we maintain our time constraints. So I'm going to invite Charlotte to step forward first as our panelist. She'll be talking about a theme of grief, stages of grief as ataxia develops, as well as some helpful coping tips that she's developed for herself. So Charlotte, thank you for being here. I'm going to mute myself and ask you to step forward.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope everyone is having a good day and being COVID-19 safe. Okay, so when a loss, like a diagnosis of ataxia happens, we all go through the phases of grief and loss, which are shock, denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and resolution. All of us go through these phases at different rates, and we go back and forth. Every time we realize we're getting worse, whoops, that comes a denial for some of us, and or anger and depression. Remember, close family members are also grieving, and often there is tension when individuals within the family are in different stages of the loss and grieving. Parents too experience guilt for having given ataxia to their child. Even my mother in our mid-80s felt a great sadness and guilt that she and Pa had given this weird, debilitating condition to my sister and me. Now, I did not join NAF or a support group until 10 years after my 1998 diagnosis. So everyone in the ataxia community knows me as well adjusted to my ataxia. However, like every one of you, I experienced the deep pain of loss and anxiety of what is ahead, and the sadness and the depression after my diagnosis. When diagnosed in 1998, I was still active duty as an Army nurse. I was manager of the burn ICU in San Antonio. I had 7 years left to retire for my 20, and I was 53 years old at the time and at the height of my career. My younger sister was diagnosed in 1996 in Michigan with Friedreich's diagnosis by the New Frontiers of Genetic Study. I did not know what this was. I could not find it in any of my books, and internet search did not exist as far as I remember at that time. In fact, I'm not even sure we had email in 96. I pretty much blew it off, not thinking that this thing might be genetic. I had obscure incidents and happenings telling me that something was wrong. Again, I blew them off until my aunt told me one day when I was visiting home in Michigan that I walked like Mary. My heart sank as if I was struck by an arrow. I remember the feeling to this very moment. When I got back home to San Antonio, I saw an Army neurologist who said, yes, I did have Friedreich's ataxia. I would be in a wheelchair someday, and at that, the military did not recognize the diagnosis as a military-related disability. But regarding the military, it would be best if no one knew until I decided what I wanted to do. The neurologist kept it out of my medical record at the time. I constantly wondered if anyone suspected. I was certain I was going to be a bag lady. A year later, I was reassigned to Madigan Army Medical Center in Tacoma, Washington, to teach and be director of the ICU nursing school. My boss sensed that something was wrong, and she confronted me. I said, I'm fine, I'm healthy. I always had a funny walk. I passed my PT test. Well, that increased my worries of being found out and losing my active duty status. I was crying more and more when alone. even on flights to visiting my sons in Denver, I would try to get a window seat so I could face the window and silently cry to myself. This burning burden followed me everywhere. I could no longer go on hiding my secret and worry about my future. I would explode. I finally confidentially talked to a friend who was a psych nurse at Madigan at the time. Of course, I cried, and then suddenly I felt myself going down into a deep black pit. And I found myself no longer crying, but I howled in pain until I was empty and I couldn't cry or howl any longer. Well, ultimately, she referred me to someone outside the military system, told me how to get medical board information. So slowly, life began to improve. Shortly thereafter, Congress changed the definition of military-related disability. Yes, I will not be a bag lady. I saw a therapist weekly who put me on antidepressants that I still take to this day. I started to share my diagnosis with co-workers, students, and so forth. I would tell the students, which I would get a new batch about every 14 weeks, I would tell them that I have this neurological condition affecting my balance and coordination. Doesn't bother me. I can still teach you. If it doesn't bother me, then it should bother you. Well, that was the last of it. It was never brought up, no problems. So anyway, after 5 years, I began to heal. I began to feel that I have ataxia, but ataxia does not have me. So when it comes to coping, coping is learned through living life, and it's different for each of us. And so quite often with ataxia, including me, I was thinking, what will others think when they see me walk? When I make a mess, when I eat? Well, the one thing I learned in therapy was that you do not know what someone else is thinking. You don't read minds, or do you? No, you don't. So you really don't know what other people are thinking. Okay, you can use a cane to send a message that you have a disability and that you're not drunk. Eating out, order something that you can handle. Sandwiches, sometimes my hands shake and I have a hard time keeping the sandwich together. So I'll order something else. And when I order, let's say something like a steak, I request that the kitchen cut it before they serve it to me. And when it comes to a cup of coffee, I always ask for a half a cup so I can handle it. And then when it comes to wine, oh yes, I do like my wine. The glasses with the stems are difficult to handle. However, if I ask to have it poured into a tumbler, the bartender legally cannot do that. So they bring me an empty glass and I ask my friend or whoever I'm with to pour it for me into the glass. And I can handle it I can handle it very well with a tumbler. Well, I think from my story, you heard that it's not healthy to hide your diagnosis of ataxia. Other people can see that something is wrong. And it helps to talk about it, bring up the topic before they do, like I did with my students. And you always have to, there are situations or times when bringing up the topic is not convenient, but you can tell when people are kind of wondering. And so if someone asks me, and I've had this happen when I'm in the store, anywhere, what I have, do you have MS? And so I just simply tell them I have an inherited and progressive neurological condition affecting my balance and coordination, and that usually suffices. But then again, other people may want to know more, and so it behooves you to educate yourself about ataxia so you can talk about it with others, or you can teach others what ataxia is. And then, of course,
I'm gonna go ahead. I think you've made some really great points here.
yes.
I don't want to cut you off, but like we talked about before, a lot of these things are going to be woven in through other sections. And I think there's much more that you're going to be able to share with us towards the end. So I think just a couple of things I want to point out that you said was that, having this diagnosis can really bring on a very much of an isolative, aloneness, sad, leading to depression kind of reaction. I think that's one important point for everyone who's listening today to acknowledge that's real and it's true. I think another important point that you talked about was that, coping with this is different for everybody. And for you, you really shared your story of getting through this and how you continue to work with yourself. And also that asking for help is important. So we're going to hear more about each of those topics as we go. And for everyone out out there in Etherland, we will be hearing from Charlotte again. So thank you very much. And I'm going to move on. Let's go ahead and move on and have Deserae talk about managing symptoms and all of the daily changes that occur. And this is particularly from the family member point of view. So Deserae, why don't you go ahead and begin?
Okay, thank you, Charlotte, so much for sharing that. From the caretaker point of view, as far as managing Destinee's daily symptoms, I pretty much, I try not to hover over her so much. It's a fine balance of letting her speak up on what she needs and what I think she needs. As a young adult, finding that balance, that's the challenging part. Because some days she just may be tired and I notice she's more shaky and she needs more help with getting in and out of cars or something like that, where she may not notice it, where she just thinks, oh, I'm just tired. So it's kind of that open dialogue that we have to have with each other. Just being mindful of a little bit of everything, like her good days, her bad days, when she's slept well, when she hasn't slept well, like just those really basic things that probably us without ataxia take advantage of, where I haven't had my cup of coffee yet, so I'm not really alert and perky to those kind of things where I have to really watch her. If the weather, if it's cold, if it's snowing out, her symptoms may be a little worse. She may cramp a little more. So I think just those type of things is where, as parents and caregivers, we just got to be really aware.
So Deserae, can you talk a little bit more about what goes on inside of you? Because you did some really great things about not hovering, really being aware of what's changes are happening in Destinee, and that there's an open dialogue. But I would really hope that you would be able to help us understand what goes on inside of you, because it's not all about Destinee. It might seem like it, and particularly for people that have just diagnosed. But really, how do you take care of yourself in the midst of all of this?
That is very important. And I recently had a family member that said they would be willing to come out California and spend a weekend with her and kind of give us, my husband and I, just some time away for a little bit. I think finding out that it was genetic was a blessing and a curse. When she was first diagnosed, I freaked out. I was like, was it the vaccines I gave her? Did she eat too much sugar? It was all these blame games. Did I not eat healthy enough while I was pregnant with her? Should I have nursed her longer than 9 months? When the genetic test came back, I think that eased some of the burden and that guilt feeling a little bit. So I do have to, I have to anchor in my faith. It's different every day. It honestly is different every day. So I have to hone in my faith on a daily basis. And I think we lean on each other. When she's having a bad day, she comes to me and I can let her vent on me. I can let her be angry. I can let her be happy. And I think she takes some of that with me as well. So some of the things I do, long story, but some of the things to say to take care of myself, is to, like Charlotte said, talk. Even just going to the support group meetings. The first few ones I went by myself. She didn't go with me, but just to connect with other people and to know that we're not alone. And that's the biggest thing, honing in on my faith, and then exercise, making sure I exercise every day, that I eat healthy myself, sleep I need, and to take the breaks and not feel guilty. If my husband's like, hey, you're getting a little, we need some connection. You need some time away. To make her feel independent as well and say, hey, we're going away for the weekend, or I'm going away for a night. There's family members around that can check in on her. Or if she's like, I'm feeling very safe, I'm feeling really more shaky than normal, I'll reach out to a family member and say, hey, can you come over and stay with us?
Yeah. Beautiful. And I think, and I hope that everyone who's listening, really we're taking notes about how to take care of yourself. And, if I can sum it up, it would be, really communication, each other, with other people in the world, in your own family world, your extended family, but also in the family of Ataxia, to take advantage of support groups, dialogue, and so on. I think another thing is that this whole, just get back to the basics. Exercise. I mean, what is everybody saying about dealing with COVID-19? Which I think, everyone in the world is dealing with isolation. And here we've got a population of people with disability, with ataxia, that understand about how do you keep yourself sane in isolation. So the basics: exercise, eating well, and sleeping well. And then I think another important point, in addition to all the things you do to take care of yourself, as well as anchoring in your faith, is that it's, Destinee has a lot, can do a lot as well. And that it's not just you taking care of her, but it's a mutual. How do we help support each other in all of this? Did I miss anything, or anything that I may have taken differently than what you meant?
Nope, I think that's all of it. And I think the biggest thing as well is, as women, as moms, we kind of neglect ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we feel guilty. I know I do. I feel guilty if I go and meet friends for lunch and I'm like, oh, did I leave something that Destinee can microwave for herself?
Right.
Those, I think the guilt, just letting go of that guilt is as well.
Yeah, that mother's guilt is like all the time, and I'm sure there's some dad too. So we'll just call it parenting guilt.
Yeah, fair.
Right. Okay, good. All right, we're going to be hearing from you again in just a little bit. So now, Destinee, it's your turn. And what Destinee is going to talk about, for all of you out there, just to get ready, to get your notepad ready, is to talk about progression health points. And from a wisdom of an 18-year-old, 18, are you 18 now?
Yeah.
From the wisdom of an 18-year-old, we can all learn something. So Destinee, take it away.
Okay. Thank you guys for sharing, Charlotte and Mom. Those are some good points. But so when I first got diagnosed, I was a little scared to like tell people and ask for help. But now that I've almost had my condition for almost 3 years, I learned to start asking people for help. And like I even go to Walmart and people are like, you don't have to use your walker. Do you want like one of those handicap chairs that are like motorized? I'm like, no, okay, thank you. But it's just like hard because like I've had people ask me before, like, are you sober tonight? Have you got enough sleep? Are you high? And I'm like, no, like I have a genetic condition that just affects with my balance. And like people don't like, they don't want to ask me more questions about it. So like it makes me kind of close up again, but then I realized that I need to start letting people know more information about it, or else they're just gonna judge me more. And then even at school, like people, like kids around the hallways would be like, why are you walking like that? And this was before I got tested. They were like, why are you walking like that?
Yeah.
Like you walk like you have something like your ankles messed up or like your knee. And I'm like, no, like I don't know what it is. I think I'm just sore. So, but then when I found out, I started letting people know, and I had to get a 504 plan at my school, and I had to cut down classes, and I ended up finishing school my senior year at home because I wasn't able to walk around and get the help that I needed, especially with COVID going around. So I learned to open up, let people know, and not to like isolate myself from others, and to not really care what people think. Like, yeah, I have tremors. Yes, I get headaches. Yes, I act tired. Some people say I'm drunk, but that's all because of this condition. But one thing I've learned is when I first got diagnosed, I was so mad at the world. Like, I was mad at my dad. I was mad at my mom. I was mad at my grandpa, my grandma. I was mad at everybody. But then as like it continued in the progression and like stood the same but kind of got worse, I've learned to love myself and love others because like no matter what you have or like no matter what you have or what people think you have, like they're always going to be there for you. So I've learned that I can't care what people say or what they think. I have to just know, like, okay, I have ataxia, but it doesn't define me.
I think if I had a mic, you know, those mic drop, boom, I could have done it just then, but I couldn't find the mute button, unmute. But I think what you said is that you have chosen in these 3 years since your diagnosis, and you've gone through lots of phases. Not like you've put on rose-colored glasses and everything's going to be peachy keen. Because I heard that it's hard. It was hard at the beginning before you even knew your diagnosis. It was hard with the cruelty of schoolmates and other people in the world. And that you've realized, and I think also going through an anger phase, because I think that really ties in with what Charlotte talked about, was this whole stages of grief. That the anger is a big part of this. But I think another thing that you said was really important is that more you took the responsibility for yourself around what is going on with me, you know, to learn about ataxia and to find out and go through the steps of, you know, getting help and so on. But I think another thing that you spoke about, that Charlotte talked about, is that through your own learning about your condition and about ataxia, you are really helping to educate other people. You know, and that's really important. We need people out in the world to help, you know, educate people, because this is a very little known and not very well understood diagnosis and disease process and all the different flavors of it. So I think you're an ambassador. You can see I'm giving you the title of Ambassador Destinee now, the Ataxia Ambassador, because you're helping people understand. And it's not easy. And like your mom said, you know, she's every day she has to go back to her faith. And I bet every day for you, it's like, all right, I'm going to get out of bed, put my big girl pants on and get out there and do my life. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else from this perspective that I think before you answer that, I'm looking at our notes. And one of the things that you mentioned was don't hide or ignore the disease situation. Did you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yes. So what I mean is like, if like you're having trouble like painting your nails, you can't just be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm probably just tired. Like, no, you have ataxia. You have to notice that. You have to recognize that.
Yeah.
And then another thing I want to mention too is, you get diagnosed, you have to realize you have to start taking care of yourself more. You have to eat right. You have to exercise. You have to move at least probably 5 to 7 days out of the week. And recently I've been walking a lot since the gyms are closed because of COVID. And it is hard, like, because like some days I'll use my walker, and then some days I'll use my cane, and some days I'll just try to walk without anything, but I can't do it. But I'm learning that, okay, then we got to work on this more and more, like every week. Can't just jump to it like the next day.
Right. I love it. I think you could go out and motivate those NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball players. Like, all right, guys, we just got to do it. Okay. So that's great. That's great. All right, cool. So what I want to do now is we're gonna do kind of a Deserae Destinee kind of section here. And what Deserae, the two D girls, are going to talk to us about are the effects. And you've already talked a little bit about it, you know, individually, but, you know, to really look at the viewpoints of each, maybe you could highlight a few of those that you talked about in each of your own little individual times, but also kind of really help us understand who does what. And I'll let you handle that, but so that the people out in Etherland out there who are watching us kind of get an idea of what's coming up. So it's the effects on the whole family. So Deserae and Destinee, take it away.
I think the effects on the whole family as a whole, it's been a little rough. I think the good part, which is not really good, but is that it's genetic. So her dad has the condition. His dad had ataxia as well, and a lot of the family on that side as well. So it's not too much of a shock because they've shared a lot of tips with us and whatnot. So I think that has been, I think that's what's kind of helped us as a family as a whole. What about you, Dee?
So I know that my diagnosis had a big effect on my dad's side of the family, because when we first told them, they were in denial. They were like, no, you don't have it. Like, no, you're fine. They didn't want to help me. They made me walk for myself when I was like stumbling all over. So I just think it takes a while for the family to process it, because like now, like when I go and see my dad or like my grandma or my uncle or my brother, they have a walker for me, or they're like willing to like let me hold on to them, like to walk, and like they help more now than they did before.
I think too that I think as far as who does what, I think we've realized that we're a team. And so each person has a role, and it may change on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Like Destinee said, she knows she has to keep moving So, okay, maybe she can't vacuum as far as chores. You know, she can't vacuum anymore, but she can dust in a chair and, or, you know, put dishes away, the ones that she, even if she drops, they won't break, maybe not the fine china. So I think that's kind of what we've done. I think as far as to prevent myself from burning out, I've got some microwave meals in the freezer. And, you know, I'll ask her, do you want me to cook for you today? And then that way she can say, no, or I tell her, you know, I've got a lot of work to do today. There's stuff in the fridge, make a sandwich. So I think those type of things too, as well, where it's not like, well, mom's gonna cook me 3 meals every single day and I don't have to do anything. Or where she's like, oh, I have to cook for myself and I don't know how to use a gas stove. So I think it's just that whole communication thing we talked about. And the expectations, I think, knowing that it's progressive and we go off of her, you know, what she says. We want to encourage her to do as much as possible on her own, but we want her to feel comfortable enough to say, I need help in that. I can't button my shirt today. Or mom, I can't wear jeans anymore. Can you buy me just tights? So those kind of things.
And I also think it's nice when people in my family like ask me like, how are you doing? How's your condition? Like, do you need help? And it's also nice when your family just already knows you need the help. Like my grandpa, every time I go to his house, he like helps me walk and he like lets me hold on to his shoulders, or he holds me, my brother, when I walk out into the garage, he holds my back so I don't fall over. My uncle has grab bars at his house, and it's just really nice and comforting to know that, okay, some of your family doesn't recognize that you have ataxia, but some of your family does, and they're willing to help you.
Right. I'm going to throw in a question that I just thought of, because I think you're doing a really good job about explaining how your extended family is, because they're aware of it, they kind of had to go through a process of acknowledging and kind of accepting where you're at. And now they're at the place where they're helping you. And people can ask you, how's your condition? But, you know, in my life of living with a spinal cord injury at the beginning, I got so tired of people just asking me about how I was doing with my condition. How is it for you guys? Do you have people in your life that are like, hey, you just want to go to the movies? You know, I'm kind of talking about ataxia. You want to go to the movies, you know, and do regular things. Can you talk about that a little bit? Is that something that you've dealt with as well?
I want to say yes, I have dealt with it. Like before COVID got crazy, my friend Michaela was going to UNC up here, and there would be days she'd be like, hey, do you just want to like take your mind off everything and go to the mall? And I'm like, I'm feeling kind of tired, or maybe I should stay in, but I'm gonna need help. And she's just like, okay, like I'm there, like whatever you need. But she's also like one of my friends who sticks up for me. If like somebody at the mall asked, like, I found this store like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I screamed, and in Spanish, they like were like, oh, you need to be quiet. And I'm like, I just felt like, do you not see this? Like, she stood up for me and was like, she has a neurological disease that progresses. So, like, can you just help us?
Yeah.
And like, even if there's days that I don't feel like going out and like going to get coffee or going to the movies or going to the mall or just going grocery shopping with her, she's like, okay, then we could just hang out at your house and watch movies. And I'm like, that's nice. Like, I need someone who doesn't always want to go and do something and just wants to stay at home.
Right. So I think what you're saying, and I think that's really, really important, is that to have people in your life that understand about your condition, understand about the effects of ataxia, and who are like, hey, we want to go to the movies. You know, so it's not all about your condition, but it's like you're a regular person who wants to go do things. and to have a person stand up for you in the store when everyone else is freaking out, and your friend's like, hey, it's okay, we got this handled. You know, I think that's really important. I think that's another thing for people out in the world to make note of, is that, you know, yes, and that's part of that, acknowledging I've got this condition, I know what's going on with me, being able to then educate others, and then also extend that out to, hey, I'm just a person as well, and I still want to go to the movies, want to go to the store. And sometimes it might be that I have to stay at home and watch Netflix, you know, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Anything else in this point around family matters, the whole family? Anything else, Desiree, you wanted to put in before we move on to our next theme?
No, I don't think so. I think that covers it all.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move back to Charlotte, and Charlotte's going to step forward with some visuals for us around the home environment. And you remember when we first began our panel, Charlotte was really moving into how to cope with this. And I think one of the things that Charlotte's very strong with and very helpful with all of us is about how do we make our home environment something that we can actually move around in. So Charlotte, take it away.
Okay, Lori, where are my slides?
Yeah, we need the slide. There we go.
There they are. Okay, your home environment is a big part of your coping, because if you make it handicap friendly, it just makes you so much more comfortable. One thing you can do is widen your doorways for the walker and wheelchair using offset door hinges. And you can get those at Lowe's or any one of the home improvement stores. You can even get them from Amazon. One thing to remember is, if you know the corners of these two different ones that are shown, the one on the left is what's considered a 45-degree angle corner, and the one on the right is what's considered as a 90-degree corner. And so you need to make sure that you're replacing it correctly. Next slide, please. Wheelchairs need ramps for the raised thresholds found in your house, especially in the doorways that go into the house. The black one is adjustable, and it is found on the website that you see here. Home improvement stores and handicap equipment stores have different varieties of ramps. Next slide. Next slide. The picture on the left is a rail that slips under the mattress. You can even fasten it to the bed. I find it extremely helpful to get in and out of my wheelchair, getting in and out of bed, having that. I have a friend with Ataxia who has a pole that goes from the floor to the ceiling that she uses to get in and out of bed. When it comes to grab bars, it's best to put these things up before you start falling. The shower, the bathroom, other places, and it's not a good idea to just put the bars where you think you might need them. There are special ways or special placements in the shower or around a bathtub. Haven't you been in a hotel and sometimes the grab bars for the tub shower are just not in a convenient place to be very helpful? So you can get that kind of information online. Have somebody who knows how to put these bars up for handicapped people. Also, they have to go into a stud that's behind the drywall. You can't just put it into a drywall. The one on the right is for my backyard, going up and down steps. And The one that swings out is the one that's used for RVs. I swear I got that one. Next slide, please. Okay, Ataxians often have incontinence issues. I found these bags on Amazon. They come in different sizes, and you can find them under odor sealing bags, and I'm sure you can find them other places other than Amazon. But I tell you, even in the summertime, there is no odor like these bags. Next slide. A button hook is a must. I can no longer close buttons just like Destinee said. And the button hook works marvelously. Also, there's a large variety of handicap clothing that are available online, including children's clothing. Tommy Hilfiger comes to mind. So all you have to do is put in handicap or clothing for handicap, and very convenient. Next slide. Okay, so here are all the different resources. You can search the internet for certain kinds of equipment, put in coping with neurodisability. Also, there are podcasts about neurological disability, your Ataxia support group, Amazon, Craigslist. I don't know if you guys have Nextdoor that comes on your, or that you get in your email. Local handicap equipment classes, or some localities have special handicap classes. Secondhand stores like Goodwill. The wheelchairs and the walkers generally go quite fast, so visit them frequently. And again, home improvement stores, Walmart, then handicap equipment suppliers. It's really interesting to see what kinds of equipment is actually out there. And then you can always go to YouTube to learn how to do something, how to or where to put your grab bars. So those are all examples. Okay, I'm finished.
So Charlotte, let me, just a couple of key points that I heard. One is that to actually get these things kind of lined up, almost like anticipatory, before you need them. So before you fall down in the shower, put the railings up. Is that right?
Yes, let me tell you a story. I have the grab bars and I have the walker and everything. I had all those things in advance before I needed them.
Mm-hmm.
So lo and behold, I fractured my legs.
Yeah.
I needed a wheelchair. I didn't have a wheelchair. I had to spend, it was either go to a rehab center or someplace. And luckily I had a friend where I could camp out there until I got a wheelchair. And they had the extra power chair, and I stayed in the basement. Their basement was all set up for handicap.
Yeah.
So it always helps to have
Right.
before you need them, before
Correct.
you fall and you hurt yourself.
Yes. Now, one other point, because we do, I do want to make sure we have a couple of questions I want to get to. But one other point that I think is important that I heard you say is that, and I know this from my own experience, is that let us know what we can do for you. Let us know if you need some help. And then they go away. Well, what I would suggest all of us do is keep track of what do we need help with. I need somebody to install a grab bar. I need somebody to put in a ramp. I need somebody to do something, because people really do want to help. They honestly don't know what to do. So I would encourage all of us with living with a disability to keep a little list of this is what I need help with. And the next time somebody says, oh, let me know, I got it. I'm going to go to my list. I'm going to, pick from the list. Which one can you help me with? Because I really need help. People do want to help. They just don't know what to do. All right. A couple of questions that Lori sent to me before we got started. One person said, I want to know if and how others deal with constant tremors. At times, I feel like I'm always shaking when I'm in movement, and also sometimes it feels like I have vertigo. So I know that we have about 7 minutes till the webinar is done. So Charlotte, would you like to approach that question and try to keep it lasered so that we can move to the next question? And maybe Destinee has a comment about that too. Okay.
I don't have a severe problem with tremors,
Sure.
but yeah, I do. Some days are worse than others. My recommendation is to certainly talk to your physician about it. There are medications they can give for the tremors. I have a friend that no matter what she does, no matter what she takes, she has the tremors, and it is really hard to deal with those tremors, and it frustrates her more than any other symptoms of the ataxia. And I'm sorry, I just really don't have a good answer.
Well, I think your answer is good in that there are medications available, and some days are going to be worse than others. And so, yeah, so there's no magic bullet, no magic cure for that. Destinee, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, for me, my tremors are pretty severe. I've noticed that they're worse on days that I don't get good sleep, but they're better on days when I get sleep with my CPAP, maybe my humidifier, lots of water. And I've noticed that putting on makeup with tremors is a little hard. So one technique that my mom taught me is when you put your elbow down on your sink, you hold it, then you put your mascara on, and it's easier.
Nice.
And then just the other way too.
Yeah.
Because she can't take any medication right now for the tremors. Or like Charlotte said, her neurologist has offered her some.
Yeah.
She can't take any because of the study. So
Okay. Oh, okay.
we just wing it. And
Sure,
we brains, or we go to YouTube and find solutions.
Right. So I just got a little message from Lori that we can go a little bit over our time at the top of the hour. So let me get to the next question. Is there a special diet with foods to eat or avoid because of ataxia? So maybe all three of you could chime in if there's something you need to know.
I think for us, Destinee was pre-diabetic for a while. So you just don't want to add any more problems to what you have already, no more underlying conditions. So diabetes you can prevent that. Cholesterol you can prevent. So she met with a nutritionist, and she did a plan for Destinee, because of course she's a teenager still. She wants her chip, she wants her stuff. But she also knew that it was her responsibility, and I would support. Like I said, I would cook the healthy, I would buy healthy. We were in it as a team. So I think that was the biggest thing, is just if you have the opportunity to meet with a nutritionist or a dietitian and make a lifestyle plan for yourself and prevent any additional problems.
Okay.
Getting back to nutrition, the best thing that makes me feel better, makes me have better days, is when I eat healthy food, low on sugar, and when it comes to starches, stay away from the white starches. Lots of fruits and vegetables. Okay.
Right. And what it comes down to, from what I heard from all of you, is that there isn't an ataxia diet, but there's a human being diet that we all need to be mindful of, that we keep ourselves so that we don't have what we call comorbidities in healthcare. We don't have other health problems like, you know, cholesterol and obesity and blood sugar issues and, you know, on and on and on. And I think that goes with not just nutrition, but, you know, healthy lifestyle. So I just figured, go ahead, Charlie.
I actually want to mention something about gluten. A lot of people feel that maybe their ataxia gets better with a gluten-free diet. Now, there is ataxia that is caused by gluten. However, you have other problems, and gluten is not an issue for people who have the regular SCA type of ataxias or Friedreich's like I do.
Okay, all right. So I'm looking at some of the questions, and I'm going to try to put a few of them together. And Charlotte and Destinee, you can certainly talk about these. There's something about falling, fear of falling. So let me just kind of this walking, ambulating kind of is the bigger umbrella. So the fear of ambulating with, you know, the instability. How do you find a good walker? You know, and that. So I think some of it is, you know, being aware of your condition, anticipating, but also where do you get good equipment? How do you deal with the fear of falling? All of that.
Okay, when it comes to, if you are afraid of falling, you really should be using a walker or some kind of assistant or aid in helping you walk. And you can get walkers in medical supply places. Now, walkers, you have different size wheels. The bigger wheels are good for outdoors, like grass and gravel. The small wheels are fine for in the house. Now, I have 5 walkers, so I don't have to lug walkers up and down stairs. And I have one that is constantly in the house, one in the basement. When you select a walker, make sure that it's good and stable for you. Walk around with it in the store and try and see whether or not you're wiggling and your balance issues if you feel comfortable with it. But yeah, there are many kinds out there.
Right.
For me,
We're still kind of looking for a good one for her.
yeah. But for me, with the falling situation, when I first started falling, I would freak out because my muscles would get tight or start spasming out. But now if I fall, I just laugh and get back up. But for me, for the walker, my doctor, Dr. Collins, she recommended that I go to an OT doctor because they had different walkers and they could teach me how to walk with one. But she told me that like a couple months before I got into the trial, and once I got into the trial, I couldn't do it anymore.
Okay.
So I just started with one walker now that I walk with every day. And I mean, it's pretty helpful, but I definitely need to get a new one because this one, you like the handles like are really low.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got to go hunchback, but I did try my great grandmother's walker, as she has a walker with 2 big front wheels and 2 small back wheels.
Yeah.
Has a chair, but I noticed I can't walk with that either because the back wheels they turn and like I don't walk straight, so no. I'm still trying out different walkers.
So there's another one of those silver linings that if you have if your extended family has been with this, they may have some equipment laying around in the basement that might work or not. So be careful. Right. I do think we do need to address, and there's several questions about how is everybody dealing with this COVID-19, and they run the gamut from, I'm a single person, I live alone, how do I, it's already lonely, how do I deal with that? So we got that. Then we've got how do you deal with caregivers that are coming and going into everybody else's houses, and a family member who's actually, working out in the world. So maybe each of you could talk a little bit about how are you dealing with this COVID-19 thing And we'll maybe end on that. And then just so the panelists know, Lori can send you these questions, and hopefully we can get some answers out to these people that are still kind of wondering. Okay, how you dealing with COVID-19? Charlotte, go.
Okay, well, I make a list, or at least I have something mental in my head to do every day. Every day I have something I want to accomplish. I have a list of people that I haven't called for a while that I want to call. Then I call 1 or 2 people a day, every other day sometimes, and just keep busy. Oh, I know one thing. Avoid the daytime talk shows. Those shows, there's people yelling at each other, mad at each other. I do not feel good after I watch those kinds of shows. So, watch.
Nice. So what I'm hearing you say is have a goal, have a to-do list, make sure you keep in contact with people. Keep yourself somewhat busy or occupied, and avoid negative energy. And it could be in the form of talk shows or people who are, Debbie Downers and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and then when it comes to people coming in and out of the house because of bad repair people, well, when they come in, I have extra masks, disposable masks. If they aren't wearing one, I hand them one. And I also have bottles of hand gel at the door. And so I squirt it into their hands before they touch anything in the house. And of course, we keep our distance. And then after they leave, if there's anything that might have been contaminated, I wipe it down.
Okay, Deserae and Destinee, talk to us about how are you dealing with this COVID thing?
Well, I think before it all really went down, we were planning on going. She had got her wish through Make-A-Wish, and we were going to go on a cruise the week after the Ataxia conference. So what I did was the same thing. I just grabbed a few, just reminded her and my husband about hand washing, just because I've been in the medical field for so long. And then vitamins, making sure we up our vitamins as much as possible. And then just the same thing, just eating good and staying healthy, staying moving, getting outside. We have plenty of sunshine, so just getting outside, even if it's just to sit outside for a few minutes, drink a glass of tea or whatever. And then we designated one person, kind of. So my husband was the one who would go to the store, but we still utilized I still picked up groceries and stuff, whatnot. But if there was anything that he needed to do or get for us, he was the one that would go out and come back.
Right.
So that's just what we did. Unfortunately, I work from home anyway, so so we only have a few family members out here, no friends. So living in a small city was kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess, because there's plenty of space out here and plenty of open areas for us to walk, and we're not very congested. Our neighborhood is all by farms, so we've got plenty of there.
Good.
Space.
Well, so being outside, there is definitely a field called therapy. So being outside is important for our mental and emotional and physical health. So I'm glad all brought that up. So, all right. Well, I'm going to thank all of my panelists for your excellent sharing today. From your personal experience, sharing very, very important tips for all of us out in the world to learn from, caregivers as well as those with ataxia, where to find resources, and to acknowledge that this is hard, and with some mind shifts, some opening up to what's happening and what's going on, and asking for help can certainly be positive. So thank you all. Lori, what else would you like to help us with to wrap this up?
Well, thank you, Terry, and thanks, Charlotte and Deserae and Destiny. I really enjoyed hearing your experiences and the tips and the advice that you shared. Thank you so much for being part of this session, all of you. To all of you out there, I did want to let you know or give you a reminder that a recording of today's webinar will be made available. And we truly appreciate all of you joining us today. As another note, especially during these times, please be sure to continue to stay connected. We have virtual support groups out there, and you can find meetings on our event calendar. And we'll continue to be doing webinars like this for the next couple of weeks. So we hope you're able to take advantage of those opportunities. And we hope you all take care and stay safe and healthy, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Stay healthy. Stay safe.
Thank you, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.